Hey guys, welcome to another episode of All Bass Creations Effects, Tutorials, Demos, and Reviews. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for me. So what you've been listening to is a bunch of different bass preamps and a digital one. And we also going to go through a couple more digital examples of digital bass preamps that you available to you. What's going on? You see, what's going on, Jed? Appreciate you commenting. Yeah, I've been playing music since I was 4, and I'm 35 now. So, long journey, 31 years, you know. But playing bass since 10th grade in high school. Actually, bass was the 11th instrument I learned. I learned 10 other instruments before I learned bass, and was gigging and doing and was a music director before I even played bass. Then I transferred, I always loved hearing bass, and come to find out when I did try bass, I actually loved it, and I've been a bassist ever since, pretty much. So, but I appreciate you asking, and I appreciate the compliments. Thank you, bro. So, back to it. What we were listening to there, we have the Gensler Magellan preamp, which you can see here. And then we have the Aguilar AG preamp, right? Come on, let's bring this on over here like this. Then we got the Eden WT DI, which is this gold one. So you got that nice Eden World Tour head sound to it, which is, was a lot of slap and pop from the 80s type of sound. It's a very nice, tight, slapping pop type of sound. So with that, then we got the Ampeg SGT DI, which is one of the newer Ampeg heads that came out. They came out with the Venture Series heads. This is pretty much that in pedal form. Without the power amp, pretty much. So it also has built-in IR loader, which is amazing. So this one little pedal here as a Swiss Army knife actually acts like 3 different bass preamps in one. When you have this SGT circuit, you can turn that on B15 or SVT. That's more of a digital side of it, but the actual analog, the preamp, the actual SGT preamp by itself side is analog. So that counts there. Then we have the JHS color box, this white box over here. Hopefully you guys can see all of this. Let me see. Let me go and check, make sure everything moving how we like it to move. So got this, and we'll be doing. Oh, we got the ToneX series pedals. So the ToneX one down here, that was the last preamp. That was a Harkey TX600 head, which is I have 11 different preamp packs. All these different preamps I just named, plus these other bass heads and stuff. I have over here the little Mark III Ampeg BA series head, Jens Benz Shuttle 9, TC Electronic BH500 original. All these different preamps. It's 11 of them. They have different preamp packs available on my Patreon. So make sure you check those out. And as well as my actual preset list directly off of my ToneX one is on there as well. So let's get back to it. That's a Harkey head, Harkey TX600 2 preamp head in there. So that I modeled in there. So the modeling stuff is getting really good. As well as let's go and throw in this the B6. We're gonna throw in the Zoom B6 in there. Let's see. Let me get to my amp section on here. Yep. And we'll just take the IRs off and the compressors. So here's my bass by itself, right? And here it is with the Ampeg SGT preamp on the Zoom B6, which is the difference. Just a quick side note. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that very much. Over on Twitch, JPS. Appreciate you. So the difference between the Zoom B6 and the MS-60B Plus, the main difference is the processing power. So like, not the processing power, the sample rate rather. So the Zoom B6 has twice as high of a sample rate as the MS-60B Plus and all the multi-stomp series. So, those are running at 24-bit, 44.1 kilohertz, and the Zoom B6 is running at 24-bit, 32-bit float sometimes at 88.2 kilohertz. So twice as much the processing power, but we're just going to add this in there. Here is, again, my dry tone. now we got the Ampeg SGT on the Zoom B6. And let's just compare that directly to the Ampeg SGT DI, and we'll do I have a ToneX model of this as well. So let's switch over to that. So here's the actual SGT, and we're just going to do the preamp on there so we can compare these little Ampeg, the different types of Ampeg preamps, and see if you really still need these analog pedals, because as you can see, they're quite bulky. Like, you know, I love the sound of them, and I wish I always had unlimited room for everything, but you know, these, let me make sure everything not running double. Here we go. So this is just the SGT. Okay, so that's the SGT. Here is the ToneX. This is one of my that's available in the ToneX in the SGT pack on my Patreon. So pretty much this is one of those settings out of that pack on the ToneX pedal. Here we go. And by the way, the ToneX is actually processing at 24-bit, 192 kilohertz. You know, when it's inside the pedal, if you use the pedal as an audio interface, it only does 24-bit, 44.1 kilohertz. So, you know, but when you have it inside, once you load a tone model and stuff and preset into the pedal, it actually processes inside the pedal internally at 24-bit, 192 kilohertz. Which I know is a strange distinction, but if you're into audio interfaces and stuff, you understand what I'm saying. All right, here we go. So you get a lot out of that, like that versus this. To the ToneX. To the Zoom B6 Ampeg SVT on there. So not bad at all. Not bad at all. Either one of these, any of these could work. It just depends on what your personal needs are. So, and by that I mean, your budget, really. Because we all would love to have every single pedal out. Every single pedal we can get our hands on, but it's not always feasible with the budget. Oh yeah. Tones make a huge difference. Your playing makes a huge difference. Everything when it comes to a vibe or something. And if you're getting your first bass in a few days, congratulations. I'm doing great, by the way, over on Twitch. I appreciate your Travel Science, Jeb, all you guys, on all the platforms. Hit the like button wherever you're at. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we're going to be doing more stuff like this. We'll be doing a little bit of actual live investigation of what misconceptions may be out there about certain types of gear. Some people only want analog stuff and they're just stuck on that, and that's just the only thing they can ever use. I'm not one of those people, of course, as you can see, but some people get stuck on digital and saying analog is not even worth it, but in reality, for me, this is just me. In the studio, I definitely would prefer to have my analog stuff, even though I do love how my digital stuff sounds. Now, if I go into somewhere and and I want the ultimate flexibility, I probably will record direct, and then have the ability, if something like ToneX, I have the ToneX software or Amplitude, like do my amp modeling within the computer. Sometimes that actually works out best for me, for the simple fact that when I'm in the studio, because I can change the tone. Like, I can experiment with different preamp sounds in there. I can also reamp that through different preamps or different amp sims or cabinet sims that I may need. So that's also something with the digital stuff that allows you some extra flexibility compared to the analog stuff. Once you print it on there with the analog stuff, like, meaning once you record it with the analog preamps, that just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, that sound is pretty much what you've got recorded there. So you have to definitely weigh your options. Do I want the most flexibility in post, or would I rather just give them this particular sound up front? And depends on how experienced you are. If you trust yourself enough and you've been doing it long enough and been in enough situations where that works for you, then that's what I would do. Because if I want that sound, and that's how I was playing the record, or doing the recording, that's pretty much how I'm gonna want it to sound. They may need to tailor it for the record a little bit, but that's, pretty much what I want printed on there, and then you can do whatever the studio engineers can do whatever post. Now live, it really doesn't matter. I ain't gonna lie to you. It really doesn't matter live whether you're using analog or digital preamps. And I say that because once the music is playing with everything going on, it's not like all those little small nuances that musicians, we pay attention to with sounds are going to be able to be heard. So let me see if I can do a quick. Let's try this. So I'm gonna do the SVT and the ToneX 1 with a SGT tone model, right? And then I'm just gonna flip back and forth and see if, like, even with this small amount of backing track, it's just a tambourine and a synth, right? It's actually the C4 synth, you know, a patch I made for that, which I also have a pack on Patreon for if you want my C4 settings. Listen to that synth. You ain't even gotta sit there and try to make that, but let's go. So that's just a quick example of how when the music's playing, it gets even more difficult to tell the difference between analog and digital pre. I've never listened to a record and been like, I wish they had put that through an analog preamp instead of a digital. Like, I don't listen to music like that. Neither do consumers. You know, typically it's more of an organic thing. If it sounds good and it feels good, let's rock with it. You know what I'm saying? It ain't a thing of digital versus analog, really, in particular for me. Because I can give you a few examples. The digital, you know, the SGT is a unique head, a unique pedal rather, preamp, for the simple fact that it has 3 different preamp sounds. So it has the regular preamp sound by itself, which you've already heard, and it also has B15 in the SVT mode. So that's the B15 SVT. So you get 3 different preamp sounds with that, right? But those are all Ampeg sounds, right? So the way these multi-effects pedals, things like the Zoom B6, which has excellent amp models in it, you know, and the ToneX series pedals, like ToneX 1, ToneX pedal, and the ToneX series software, has the best amp models out of everybody, in my opinion, at the moment. Even the Quad Cortex and all that other stuff. To me, the ToneX series model and stuff is just way better. It's more affordable. Like at $179 for that little pedal, it's a lot in there. And they added modulations and delays to the joint. So you get like a little multi-effects unit for $179 with the best amp models in there, which is crazy. So, but one way I like to use this particular head, I mean, I keep calling them head because I use them like heads. I actually run directly into power amp end of preamp of bass amp heads. For instance, that Jens Ben shuttle, I've run into the return of that On your amp, it might say power amp in or something like that. But I run straight to that, and then I use something like the ToneX or these other analog preamps when I feel like it, but I primarily use stuff like the digital preamps because of the versatility. So, for instance, I have a Harkey head, TX600 head programmed in here. But then I also have, I have 20 other slots for different stuff, but at 3 at a time, I can have them programmed where each one of these different color lights, like the one blinking is the purple one blinking is the Harkey. Then I have that Jens Bench shuttle head programmed in here. See a little bit of that. Also have a TC Electronic BH500 head, that 30-pound head back there, the original jank. I got that in here as well. So just a nice warm, that's also a tube preamp. They just have one single tube for the preamp, that and the TC, the Harkey TX600. That was actually, no, that was the, that doesn't have a tube. That has a tube drive, which is like a tube emulation. The TC Electronic BH500 head right there. So I can have those 3 heads and just switch in between them for any reason I want. And it's like I'm switching the sound of the head, but keeping the same cabinet sound. For instance, if I was to run this, I got this SVT 410s with a tweeter. The IR in here is a RE20 and a SM57 on the tweeter. But you see what I'm saying? I can just switch between that. I can pretty much, in the digital world, with something like the B6 or the ToneX series stuff, I can mix and match the cabinets and different things like that, like on the fly, a lot easier. Well, with the Zoom B6, if I have a ToneX 1, like I do, and a Zoom B6, you pretty much can switch your amp head with the ToneX 1 and use your B6 as your IR loader, and that frees up a few slots for effects as well. So now you can use more slots on your Zoom B6 for different modulations, or this same method to work with a HX Stomp, or a Line 6 HX Stomp, or any of that stuff, a Helix. But you can get a ToneX one, and you'll pretty much use that for all your amp models. You can even use it for compression. It's got delays, reverbs, modulations in there. Not the best modulations and the most flexible delays and nothing like that. You're not getting the best thing about the ToneX stuff is the amp model. So, that's the main reason to buy it. If you're buying it for effects, then you should get something else. But it definitely allows for you to get different tones very easily. Same thing with the B6 here. I have like whole rigs programmed here, so like I can literally go press that 1, 2, I'm scrolling. This is stuff I had programmed for a show, for a musical. So this would be my first rig. It's a rock musical. So change the shape of my bass. I tried to keep it the same for you guys a little bit, so it wouldn't be like, you could definitely hear the difference between the preamps without my tone of my bass shifting. But so now let's go into some different stuff. All right, here we go. This is my full SVT rig, which consists of nothing else on. Okay, consists of a 160 compressor on here, which is a DBX 160A compressor, a rack compressor, and a Ampeg SVT, and an 410 SVT with a tweeter. So that's this whole rig right here. Which I could just have programmed there. Got that there, and then I got a flip top, which is a B15, which actually sounds really good. This B15 on this B6 sounds really good. Let me see. Let me bring it up here for you guys. Let's see if we can kind of do somewhat of a shootout real quick. So that's the flip top B15, and here's the SGT amp. Let me do this without this microphone on. So we're gonna start with the SGT. And here's the Zoom B6. I'm gonna try to excuse me, try to get these EQs a little closer. This is more like that. And match these volumes real quick. Let me match the volumes. Close enough. So B6. So they're not, exactly the same sound. You know. But if you're just trying to, the reason I say, I always tell people, when you're listening to sounds or you're playing through units, I know they're all trying to emulate something or emulate particular amps. Like this flip top is emulating a B15. I listen, is the sound of it musical more than anything. Like I don't really care if it sounds spot on to a B15, to be honest, if it sounds good and I can use it for something musical. So that's a musical preamp right there. That sounds good, especially with that whole rig right there. So, it's really super convenient, when you can have different preamps just all in one unit, different presets just ready to go. And mind you, all these presets and amps and stuff are set up in the preset pack for the Zoom B6 on the Patreon. So if you want to grab these presets, these exact presets for the amps and stuff, all this is already set up in the preset pack that's available on the Patreon for the Zoom B6. I also have another 20 preset pack available for the MS-60B Plus. So, but yeah, I try to have all these set up. And this is an Aguilar rig on here, so you can just have, and this mark bass. Right, and Aguilar for smoother fingerstyle stuff. Then have the B15 for when you need Motown sound or something like that. And then you can have this SVT set up for more of your grittier rock sounds, or keep the gain low and just have it as a nice saturation. You can bring this gain up, bring this main volume down, and it also lets you push the preamp. So that way you can get that growl and everything you want out of it too. So having something like the Zoom B6 is like a Swiss Army knife for you. So it'll take care of a bunch of your needs all at once, compared to the analog preamps are just the preamps. The SGT, you're lucky enough to get 3 different preamps in there plus a high R loader, which does make it a lot more modern and usable for live purposes and things like that. You can literally just take an SGT and you're going to have a full sounding rig in the house, you know what I'm saying? And then you can run the preamp out into your power in, and that way you have the same sound going, similar sounds going to the system, like a mic'd up cabinet going to the system, as well as just the preamp sound going to your amp, and then it's coming through the cabinet. So you can have it easily set up for live rigs and recordings. Then you still got a line out and everything else that you can record your stuff through, or you got a through on here as well. So And you got on the side here, you also have the auxiliary in, so you can play. You know, if you need to plug in, you can play music through there with your iPad or whatever you want to use there with its own separate level and everything. So get 6 different IR slots on that. So that does make that much more versatile. Much more versatile. And I also have some amp models and stuff set up on the MS-60B Plus. So that first one you were listening to was the Ampeg SVT on the MS-60B Plus, and here is the flip top that's created like an overdriven flip top sound on there. And like I said, all these preamps and stuff and patches are already are done for you in the preset packs on their Patreon. So make sure if you want to support the channel more or get any of these preset packs, including the one I just released for the C4 synth, which has some incredible sounds on it. Make sure you go and grab that. All right, so here's the flip top. So even with it being, not as high of a sample rate as the Zoom B6, it still has an amazing sound to it. Still sounds great. Like, has a nice fat warm sound to it, and they still have the IRs on there as well. So You know, all these. Let me take that IR off. Without the IR. Well, let me do that. And so that's 32. Let's take all this off. So here's it by itself. So you get a nice, warm, overdriven sound like that as well. I happen to really love how this thing sounds. It's on sale for $100 now. You know what I'm saying? This MS-60B plus. That's a great amp sound right there. Took me from here to. Ooh, that's a warm. Without it, with it, just a nice warm sound to it. So even though then you put that cabinet back on there. So you get a very nice sound with that. But with the entire preset together. So it's like, do you really need to spend? Because let's just talk about price real quick. You know, analog preamps are not cheap. You know, I don't know if you ever looked into them, but you know, these like the Gensler, that's like 300. That AG, that's another 3. Eden, that was like 150. That was probably the most economical one out of all of them to be such a monster of a pedal. It also has a built-in compressor as well. But the SGT was running like 400 when it first came out. And, you know, I did say, you know, I would rather them drop the price. And they definitely did. They dropped it down to $350, which is only $50 more than these ones. But you get 3 different preamp sounds. You get that auxiliary in. And you get a separate control for all that stuff. You get a headphone practice amp. And you get an IR loader in there. So that all those different features is worth a little extra $50, especially because you still get your analog preamp in there. So that, and the best combination right now is like for live stuff, it would be analog preamp with an IR, which is a digital cabinet. So anything you running with an IR, if you run the digital heads with it, it's amazing too. But if you want the absolute best sound, you definitely want to have an analog preamp. That's going to give you the top tier sound. But you're looking at, just with these preamps alone, is like $1,000 for these 4. Now, if you're looking at having, you know, we're not even talking about powering them, because you got to power them too as well. You got 2 18-volt preamps. Well, 3 really. All 3 of those at the top are running 18 volts. That can run on 12. The Eden can run on down to 12 volts, but I prefer it at 18. All 3 of those, and that's running 9 volts. Oh, and let's not forget the color box. The color box is another one. That's like $450. So you can spin a grip, and you can get some distortion out the color box as well. Let me go get that for you. But the price of the joints is what the main restriction be. So I like to actually get this, like, it almost, when you crank the gain, it almost does like this noise, this it's almost like a bit crusher. It's almost like a gated fuzz type thing. So you could really overdrive this joint a lot. Break it down a little bit. Now, things like the ToneX one do an amazing job at modeling preamps and distortions and all that other stuff. So, you know, technically, you could buy a ToneX one, and if you went and bought all my packs, you can literally have thousands of dollars worth of gear, you know, for a couple $100 with all the different packs together. But, you know, these days you don't even have to have the unit to get the sound of the unit. So let's just go AG. Let's go AG preamp. I got a tone model of that. Let's see right here. So here's the actual AG preamp. The ToneX one. So it's like, do you hear that big of a difference where you need to go spend $300 versus, I don't even know how much is the preamp pack on there. Let me see, cause I didn't run a whole lot for them. You know, the different packs, but the different packs are different prices because some of them have more tone models than others. I did some of these preamps I use a lot more tones than others. So the AG preamp is $20. So basically, if you have a ToneX one or a ToneX series pedal or the ToneX software, you can literally download my pack for $20 compared to buying that for $300. That's a mad deal, you know what I'm saying? Especially when it's hard to even tell the difference. So, you know, that definitely can save you some money, or you can use it like this. You know, you can use the ToneX One pedal as a way of trying out different preamp styles or preamp heads. If you're not, you know, if you're a beginner, the ToneX One, it can be. I'm not gonna say it'll be overwhelming for you. You just need to download the software and work everything through the software so you can understand it. But if you download like preamp packs or stuff like that, it could literally save you a bunch of headache of buying different gear. You know, I have a lot of gear here and it is fun, but it takes up space. It's uses a lot of money. Analog preamps, like all these bass heads are analog preamps too, you know. So I literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, it's 9 different analog bass preamps in here. That's quite a bit of bread when you add all that up, you know, compared to just the ToneX 179 plus, you know, if you wanted to try Aguilar AG preamp, it is definitely really close. All of them are extremely good like that. And I got things like the Laney, Digbeth. And the thing I love about the ToneX stuff, I can push that with the gain. It does an incredible job of modeling the gain staging of preamps as well. And that particular Laney preset there is more of a it's a tube drive in there, the tube side of it as well. So it's a tube and the FET side. So and let's see. Even the SVT on here, a little overdriven. So it models these preamps pretty much spot on. Even the color box, you know, I have a preset on there I kind of like to use for synth bass stuff. So let's there. Yep, let's turn that on. And that. There we go. Bring this gain back down. Alright, so here's my bass. And then I'm going to give you each one of these individual, the color box. So, you know, you can determine if that gets you close. Let's hear it with a little synth bass instead of just that settings for. Mind you, all these different preamp packs are already available on the Patreon for the ToneX stuff. It's 11 different preamp packs available on there, as well as all the settings for the Zoom MS-60B Plus, all the settings for or presets for the Zoom B6 are all on there, and all the settings for the C4 synth that you'll be hearing as well. And the C4 synth pack actually is like a 47 piece or something like that, like 47 different sounds. You know, I put up quite a bit in there. Let's hear without it. So it's just like literally identical. Like the ToneX series stuff, I love IK Multimedia's ToneX series pedal. One, because you buy that pedal, you also get the ToneX software for modeling, and you can go in and get different amp models for free, as well as you get the amplitude software, which is just a monstrous with the amp cabinets. You get additional effects with that as well. But for the, if nothing else, for the modeling, that compared to let's try a different bass sound. Sorry. Without it. With it. With the color box. So it's that ToneX joint spot on. You know, is that a 400 and this is $450. Now this is really versatile. I will say, when you buy it, you can have unlimited settings, right? And I would say these days, if you're gonna go with the ToneX stuff, if you're going to actually need a bunch of settings, like you're very, very super particular about your EQ and setting things up, and I would say just get you a ToneX pedal, ToneX 179, grab a couple preamp packs, call it a day. Throw them on there. They'll already be set up for you. You'll be able to have different sounds off the back. You could try out different brand stuff that is going to be super accurate. Like if you say you get that ToneX one and you get that my JHS pack from the Patreon, you can then try out and see if the color box is even for you without spending the $450, and you would still have those presets in there for you that are done specifically for bass. This is a bass channel. I do invite other instruments in here. I appreciate all y'all, but this is primarily a bass channel, so we talk about effects from a bass standpoint. But like even sounds like this benefit from it. Woo! I love that C4 sim. Check out that pack on there too. I did a couple videos on that. Check those out. But add that ToneX one on with the color box preset. Let's do this without the mic. So, it's spot on. That's spot on right there. And sometimes even the digital version, sometimes it cuts better. I don't know why, but sometimes, analog is that really fat, warm sound, right? But the digital stuff where it excels with me personally is the clarity the additional clarity you get with the digital stuff versus the analog counterparts, So, that's a slightly more focused sound, but that's a slightly fatter, wider sound. Like it's it's very, very subtle, like tonally, like just in terms of, you know, it just depends on what you like. You really, I guess, you know. But the analog ones are gonna run you a grip. So you gotta, if you want to be Mr. or Mrs. Analog, you know, be prepared to spend some real money. Right? But if you want some, the most versatile setup is going to be the digital one. The easiest for you to keep track of, like, is going to be the digital. Another example of where digital kind of outshines analog is the settings. Like, once it's set, it can be set. For instance, if on a multi effects, I have these presets here. I can literally just bam, 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 and it switch from setting to setting over on the Zoom B6, right? Or I can switch patches on the MS-60B Plus, or I can do things like that on the ToneX and switch amps setups rather easily, compared to with the preamp ones. When you get to the gig, I have to check all my analog pedals knobs. Like, I literally have to look through and make sure that this is set up exactly like this, or those preamps are set up exactly like that, because in transit, a lot of times the knobs get turned around, and, you know, you go, if you don't check it, I've had an experience where I went to go play and then turned on the pedal and it sounded all types of crazy, you know, and then people looking at you like, see, that's why I don't like when people use effects. See, you know, nah, you ain't catching me like that. I mean, hit that like button while y'all here. I definitely appreciate y'all hanging out with me. But make sure y'all hit that like button. I appreciate y'all so much, so much. Oh, if you want to leave a tip, you can do that through Cash App, Super Chat, Super Thanks. You want any of these presets, check them out on the Patreon. And you want to support the channel some more on the Patreon. So, yeah. You know, but, you know, so like, I might get to the gig and these be all out of whack, and I just have to make sure that all my analog stuff, including filters or whatever, any analog pedal I have on my board, including my compressor, like, I have to make sure that compressor is set up that same way every time I sound check and set up, because the knobs get turned around. No matter what you do or how careful you put it in that bag, it's always some knobs that get moved around. And what the digital stuff is really, you know, awesome is you just pull it out the bag like this B6. I just pull it out the bag, set it down. I got my DI box, all this good stuff. If I want to sound check in my headphones, I can separately. It's got a headphone out and all that stuff. You also get multiple inputs and all that extra stuff, flexible effects loop on here. You get a looper and all this extra stuff, right, for $500. You know, $500 is pretty much almost what the color box by itself will cost you. You know, this will run you $450. Those will run you about $300 and $350, about $150 when they was out. But these aren't even really available like that anymore. So, you know, the Zoom B6 by itself, you know, I can get that and a ToneX one and still be under what I would pay for 3 preamps. You know, just these 3, that the newer ones, that just, you know, the Gensler, the AG, and the SGT, that's $1,000 right there. That's $950. You know, that's not even including tax. You know what I'm saying? So over $1,000 just for those preamps versus, you know, is the B6 going to be better in terms of like the actual preamp if you go on preamp versus preamp? The analog is going to win because it just sounds more organic to your ears, but that organic sound is going to organically run in your pockets. Like, it's going to magically, you know, as your sound quality goes up, your pockets are going to go down. You know what I'm saying? Because they aren't cheap, and, you know. And to be honest, like, most gigs you go on, like, you're really used to just taking a bass amp head, in a cabinet, and that's your sound. But when you have these different preamps like this and you have them available, you can switch to different amp sounds, which is great because, like I said, I like the Ampeg SGT for my rock sounds. I like the Eden as one of my slap sounds. I have multiple slap sounds. AG, I like that for fingerstyle, and you can get a nice slap sound. The Gensler definitely is like a versatile slap sound, and you can get some nice fingers tones out of that as well. But my preference for fingerstyle is going to be the Aguilar AG preamp, and I can take a Gensler and it'll cover everything, but you get what I'm saying. I just have certain preferences. So out of everything that you're looking at in terms, and the color box, I do like to take this and just run this as like my DI box, So like I'll run my whole pedal board and then I'll run this afterwards. This is only going to the house, and I'll do some tone shaping for my in-ear monitors and stuff like that. And this gives me a nice creamy tone at the end of my signal. I like to have the end of my signal be straight analog, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? Like if I can have the whole end of the signal chain be analog and the whole first half be digital, I'll be fine. Because that way I got plenty of flexibility in sound. Then I can warm it up, clean it up with the analog stuff. So feel free to ask questions too, guys. I appreciate all y'all hanging with me on the different platforms, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, and Facebook. Appreciate all of y'all. So let's take a listen to some more bass sounds real quick through this joint. That's running it through that tube. Let me take this off. See how that just completely adds. Changing the preamps. And mind you, that's back at the color box. So like the color box is giving me like that clean console sound. But if I want to run the preamps, like this is the Gensler shuttle. It has that extra heft from the tube, preamp. The TC Electronics give you that more modern sound. Very hi-fi sound to it. With a big, huge bottom on it. So, different preamps. You can look at preamps like this too, like how I got mine kind of categorized. When I'm going for more of a vintage sound, I'm definitely, ahead towards the tube type preamps. That Jens Benz shuttle tone amp on there is crazy. Here's without it. Right, Of course, my bass. You always want to start with a good sounding bass, some good, clean strings. Something else that can help a lot of people they don't realize. This string lube, what's this? Dunlop Ultra Glide 65. This helps your calluses if you play for longer periods of time, but it also, allows your fingers not to shed as much and dirty up your strings. And you can you do this once a day on your strings, and it'll extend the life of them. So, awesome. So, Yeah, if you building you a nice pedal board this week, and congratulations. You know, we got somebody buying a bass in a few days. They first bass. Got somebody building a nice pedal board. What everybody doing with their pedals these days? You know, ask me some questions if y'all got any questions about anything. You know, preamp related. Let's stay with the preamps just so we can stay on topic. But if you're building a pedal board, like what preamps do y'all have, and which ones are y'all looking into? With some preamps that's coming out that I might not know about rather. You know, I don't know everything coming out, but if you guys let me know, you know, as I'm doing reviews, I can try to get preamps that you guys are interested in versus, you know, I always have my preferences, but you know, I do this channel to do product reviews and gear reviews for you guys. So what are you guys interested in terms of bass preamps, and like what am I already covering it, or I know it's a ton of them out there. You know, I'm on a limited budget now. Y'all send some cash apps and some super chats. We could make it happen for sure though. You know what I'm saying? And y'all go on that Patreon. We can make any pedal review that y'all need to happen. We can make them all happen. But I didn't realize how much I like this Gen shuttle joint. I kind of want to do a comparison between this and the actual head coming through this cabinet stack right here. Right here, I got a Harkey 210 sitting on a high drive 210 sitting on a Fender Bassman Neo 115. I love the way that stack sounds, and that I usually run that with the Gensman shuttle head on there. Let me see. Okay, so we're gonna turn that on. And what mics I got over there? Let me fix the mics real quick. Hey, let's do this. All right, so looks like we up and running here. Let's go back to here. So this is the other thing you can do, like I was saying. No, I haven't played any Walrus pedals at all. That's something I can probably look into. Walrus. What's some other brand? Walrus Badwater. Is that a bass preamp? I know I was going to look into the XLR bass preamp as well. The little small one. You know, y'all let me know what y'all want, what reviews y'all want to watch. You know what I'm saying? And that way we can kind of make like this kind of a community decision. All right, let me turn this mic off, and which cables am I running? Let me see. All right, let me see which mics I got hooked up and where they're running. Real quick. Oh, here they are. Here they are. See, I got all types of cables running in here, so sometimes it gets a little confusing. But let's take these out the mix, and we shall add these two. Because when it's coming through the speaker, it's even like through the amp cabinet, it's even, I mean, through the, speaker cabinet, it's even harder to hear it, like the difference. There we go. All right. So that's actually a Audix D6, and here's a SM57 on the same cab. And this is the Fender Bassman Neo 115, by the way. And I'm just running these straight into this Zoom L12, which is just a mixer audio recorder. So I can literally run that. So what I want to do real quick is I'm going to run, let's see, we'll do the SGT as a bass amp head. So pretty much what we're doing right now, we're going to run these preamps into that cabinet stack, just using that amp head that Jen's Band Shuttle 9. We're not using the actual preamp, but we're going to use it as the power amp side. That's the SM57 on it. And this is the Audix D6. And here's the ToneX one. So if you're talking about like really being able to notice that tremendously, not really. If I wanted to, the ToneX one has a EQ or a depth portion to the pedal as well. So I could easily, if I wanted more bottom to it to fill it out a little bit more, I could. I'm sure this is not the exact setting I have for the SGT. It's just close. That's one of the reasons why I do love the tone models, because once I hit a certain tone, I can capture it and know it's going to be exactly that. Hard part is, like I said, when you open up your case, your analog pedals are likely not to be in the same exact position. Even if it's off by just a little smidge, that can change the sound. It can change the feel of a sound. Like, I know that feeling when you hit that perfect dial in that perfect tone and it's right there. You just want to save it. That's why I love the digital pedals for my modulations and stuff like that. Like, I use strictly digital pedals for modulations personally. Anything that's time based, I prefer the digital versions. Just because, a lot of digital stuff is warm now these days too. It's not just the analog stuff. The digital stuff can sound is modeling very well. Like, as you can hear, like, it's very close. Even if I wanted, and the fact that I can just switch from thing to thing and not have to click a bunch of different stuff. Like, I can go from this. I can go from that to. Nice warm sound. To this electronic, more of that modern sound. So let's start with the SM57. This is again I'm gonna go through a few of the tone models of preamps and bass heads I have in the ToneX one, and all I'm doing is running them through. Like I said, this speaker, this stack over here, the 210s with the 115, that's my favorite little setup there. Like 215s. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put the SM57 up on the 10. All right, let me do that real quick. I'm gonna put the SM57 on the 210s, and I'm gonna leave the Audix D6 on the 115. On the bottom. All right, all right, all right. So now we got the SM57 up top. All right. And the D6, Audix D6 down bottom. So out of one, one little thing you can create several different sounds easily. So that's the Audix. Zoom B6 is running stereo. So that's what you're hearing right there. Right there. Then each of the SM57. Audix D6. So as you can hear, all these little things like this you can create variation with, So the truth of what it sounds like in a room is somewhere in between these three sounds here, you know what I'm saying? So, you can kind of, let's see if we can mix them together a bit. Let's let the SM57 sound lead and, well, no, let's let the, let that one lead and we'll have just a little bit of the cabinets supporting there. And one thing I would say, you could do here is, let me see, I got this EQ. I don't want to know this EQ. Do a low cut on the SM57. So we'll go with that, I guess, for now. And let's see a little slap and pop sound like. So depends on what sound you want to go for. You can. This is what I was saying about having the different preamps. You know, you can just switch between them. You know, you can get a good feel for. You know, instead of having to do like bow these separately like this and do all this, you have them right. Let's see. I'm gonna put an Aguilar, and then I'm gonna put in a Magellan on the head too. So right now I got these, the Magellan, the Aguilar, AG preamp, and the SGT all queued up on the ToneX one. You know, and this is where digital preamps really just look at the footprint of this. Like, look at the size of that. It fits in the palm of my hand versus these pedals by themselves, you know, are just taking up massive amounts of space. Compared to that is like one of the smallest pedals on my pedal board, the ToneX one. So not only that, but I can take that anywhere. Like I could literally take that ToneX one off the pedal board. I can USB power it, use it as an audio interface and all this other stuff and additional effects. Whether you use them or not, they're there. You know what I'm saying? So that makes that pedal, in terms of money, like in terms of value, it makes it super invaluable for, especially for, you know, somebody on a budget. Like if you're on a budget and you just want great amp models and you just want something that sounds the most realistic out of the amp models, which we know bass amp models are really hard to do for some reason, ToneX one nailed it. So let's start with the Gensler stuff. So this is, Gensler Magellan preamp. We're gonna do the real one versus the. Let me set this up right. This was like that for the ugly. So we're gonna set this up. Here we go. So now, ToneX 1. All right. And SGT. Here's the actual SGT. And the ToneX. So then and we have the Aguilar AG preamp. We'll do the ToneX first. And the actual Aguilar AG preamp. So as you can hear, they have very it's the ToneX stuff is just spot on. Like you're not gonna be able to hear the difference with everything going on. Like if you really want, they did a great job of what I like to call capturing the soul of each brand. Like each brand has a different tonality to it to a certain extent. Like a Gensler set to the same EQ is not going to sound the same as this MPEG SGT, and so forth and so on. So each brand kind of has like their own signature sound that they, their heads give you, and they give you a variety of sounds. Like Aguilar's sound is that AG preamp, that's the clean sound. Like if you wanted like the tube, more of a tube warmer sound, the Tone Hammer or the DB 750, that really expensive tube amp head they have, or that thing, all these different little, the nuances of the Eden. Oh, I forgot I got the Eden too. Let me do the Eden because I got a tone model of that too. I forgot how good. I love Eden, yo. I forgot how good Eden be sounding. Hit that like button if y'all don't mind. Wherever you are, hit that like button for me. I appreciate you hanging with me. Make sure you subscribe and all that good stuff. And hit that, go over to the Patreon to support. You can get all these different packs for the ToneX stuff on all the preamps on there on Patreon. All my settings for the Zoom MS-60B Plus, Zoom B6, Patreon. All my settings for the C4 synth, Patreon. So check them out. But all that Eden sound good. So the ToneX stuff definitely has done an amazing job modeling these preamps. Like I said, all these are available on the Patreon, but do you need an analog preamp anymore? It just depends. It really just depends. Like I say the analog ones are still the absolute top notch, absolute best. But is that always functional, or the same way, some people like tube amps? Is it in today's time of amps that weigh 7 pounds for, that Gensler head has a ridiculous amount of power. I think it's like 1,200 watts in that little small little footprint. That's ridiculous, and that's a early 2000 Jens Benz head, like 7 pounds, for all that power. But compared to it's carrying around a 30-pound head feasible? Not really, not for me no more. That's why my T6 Electronic BH900 doesn't leave. BH500 doesn't leave the house much. It's a 30-pound head. The preamps now, they making them in all the amp heads. A lot of them, they're making them preamp version of them, especially the solid state ones. That it does bring down the footprint size like that. These preamps fit in my gig bag. So if you're going to use only one preamp and like you really like one company sound, I would say, definitely it's worth investing in the analog version. But if you just want to use their sound occasionally, like you're not glued to an Ampeg sound or you're not glued to an Aguilar sound, then I would say the ToneX series pedals or multi-effects like the Zoom B6 would definitely be of use to you, especially if you're not you know, super stuck on I need analog. You know, you want something versatile, something that's gonna, as soon as you turn it on, it's gonna be the same way, and you can program it for an entire tour or just an entire band set list if you would like to, and you can just flip through presets and have them ready. You definitely will need to go digital for that. And I would recommend going digital for that. You know, it's going to make your life super easy. If you want the smallest, most potent setup, it's going to be digital. For instance, I can take a Zoom B6 and 2 of these Monty Stomp pedals, and that's 18 effects with 3 pedals. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got a Zoom B6, I got this MS-60B Plus and this MS-70 CDR Plus. Those 3 together is 18 effects, up to 18 effects at a time, which is insane. Like, you're not really using 18 effects at a time, like, most of the time. Like, that's very, very rare. But, you know, or you can take the ToneX and the 2 multi-stomps here, and you'll still have access to up to like 18 different, you know, effects at a time. It's a lot you can do with the digital stuff. Not to mention, like, as I'm taking my ToneX, right, I can have that Eden head switch to an Mark bass head. Hop over to an Ampeg BA series head, which they don't really make any. They don't make the BA series head anymore. But this Ampeg BA 210 V2, I love the sound of that preamp head in there. So now I can take that, instead of having to always take that combo. Say I want to use that with a whole different 210s and a 15. You know, that doesn't have the Ampeg speakers. You know, I can use that Harkey and that Fender and get the same sound. You know, Laney. Jen's been shuttle. Harkey TX 600. This is a Jensler Magellan running into a color box, and then running into the tone plus color of the Empress bass preamp, bass compressor. So just that quick, you know, and that one little pedal, I got 20 different, you know, presets, you know, probably about 11, about 11 different preamps in there. And I can have any multiple variations of the same amp and not have to switch knobs. A lot of analog stuff doesn't have presets, so you have to physically change knobs. And this way you can, you know, with the ToneX series stuff, you can save your actual presets from your actual heads. You know, so essentially turning these analog heads into digital presets, which I can also then, if I'm recording direct, I can use those same tone models later or record directly into the DAW, you know, recording software like Logic or Pro Tools, record directly into there and have my dry signal, but be recording into, you know, say for instance, Jens Benz shuttle running through a Harkey and a Fender 115. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's insane. And then you got control over it after it's recorded. And if you ever need to send out just the raw file, you have that too. So it'll save you a lot of time. Digital stuff will save you a lot of time of re-recording things that may, you know, you may have laid down a track and it might be too boomy or not the right vibe or, you know, tonally, not playing wise. You know, you might have got the playing right, but the sound of it, they might not like, you know, overdriven head or, you know, whatever the case. You can then go back and change it, or you can just give them the raw file and let them do whatever amp models, amp sims, or whatever they want to use on it if you're not too particular, you know. So it gives you flexibility in more than one way going digital over the analog. So the way I look at it is analog is going to give you the best sound, the biggest, warmest sound at the moment, because digital stuff is getting better. But the digital stuff is going to give you the flexibility to have presets and duplicate the same sound over and over again, no matter if the knobs are getting knocked around or not. You'll be able to duplicate your sound a lot easier with a digital preamp that typically digital preamps, if it's within a multi-effects unit or ToneX or Quad Cortex or HX Stomp, or Helix, any of that stuff, you can instantly just save your stuff, bow, you on your way. You know, so it really just depends on, like, the highest quality you need sound wise is going to be in the studio. You know, it's nice to have it in the live as well, but in the studios where you need those really, you know, you need your analog preamps like in the studio. But if you are into them, but for live, the digital is fine. So that's how I would look at it. You know, if you're primarily going to be playing live, digital, just go digital, save yourself some money, you know, and only get, you know, a few preamps that you may like, you know, because it's not like I have all these analog preamps in this room. Like I said, I got a bunch of them, but I don't use all of them all the time. And certain ones I only use one or two sounds from, like the Jens Benz Shuttle. I only use a few sounds from that, or EQ curves from that. Same thing with the Eden. Like the Eden one, I pretty much always use it in that setting, but I do have one or two other settings that I would use, but pretty much it's always that setting. The Aguilar, pretty much that. It's always this setting, but I might add on the deep and bright switch or something like that. But for the most part, I find the sound I like with the heads and the preamps, and I stick with it. And I would like that to be duplicated, you know, or be able to pull that out when I need to. And another thing, you don't have to memorize all these settings. You have to, with analog stuff, you got to memorize your settings. Like, you literally have to know these knobs go like this, you know, and you can't be there fiddling around when you're trying to get ready for a show. You know, compared to the digital stuff, it's going to be that way every single time. And I can't stress how much better that is. Plus, if you want to run IR cabinets with the digital stuff, you know, you have all that EQ and everything in a preset versus this is just the preamp part of your sound with the most bass preamps. Now the SGT does have an IR loader, but you can't mix the preamp sound and IR loader sound. So it's just everything's a trade-off, guys. I definitely appreciate y'all hanging with me though. We about to wrap this up. If you're not already, follow me on all social media at the Bass Negus, Negus. If you want to find my original music, where I've done an album with just using bass and effects, sounds like a full album. 8 songs on there. That's called All Bass Creations, as well as I have some singles on there. Some of those singles is me playing everything, including bass, drums, and piano and everything. So check that out all on allbasscreations.bandcamp.com. And if you want to support the channel more, go to Patreon. If you want any of my presets for the MS-60B Plus, the Zoom B6, or the ToneX series pedals and software, or the C4 synth, you can check the Patreon. And if you want to leave a tip, you can do it at Cash App, Super Chat, Super Thanks. And thank you guys for hanging with me. And this has been another episode of All Bass Creations, effects, tutorials, demos, and review. Have a good one. Peace. Hit that like button and